The big question that you're probably wondering, does it reach the heights of the original film, or does it completely betray it? Is it one of those sequels that's nowhere near as good as the original, that feels like a cash grab? Well, for me personally, it feels as if Zootopia 2 is a film that wants to play it very safe. It feels as if they were a bit afraid to stray away from what worked in the first film and try new things. I think they just want a guaranteed financial success here. And yeah, I've got mixed feelings on it because, it follows the first film almost beat for beat in that we have a mystery that Nick and Judy need to solve in a bit of a similar way. You've got sort of a similar villain here. You've got dodgy mayors. You've also got all the cops once again kind of actually hate or dislike or make fun of or ostracize Nick and Judy. They're sort of on the outside once again, which does kind of feel a bit like a reset, which was a little bit frustrating. You've even got, at the end of the film, with a similar structure, a monologue sort of hammering home the main sort of message or idea that the film is meant to be sort of explaining to its audience. And even at the very end too, we've got another Shakira performance. I mean, couldn't we have possibly got a different artist maybe? But no, this movie is just too afraid to go away from the original film. But overall, is it a bad film? No, I wouldn't say that, because the first film was very good and original, and this movie kind of just gives you more of that. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, but for me, I was kind of hoping for something a bit new, and I'm not sure we really got that here. The partnership dynamic between Nick and Judy does get some interesting development here that feels really earned, but also it kind of feels like we've seen that dynamic before, and yes, it works pretty well, but it was a bit confusing too, because the whole time I'm watching this going, is this meant to be romantic or platonic? The lines feel a bit blurred here, and they are two different species as well. So I'm not sure how that would work, or I think that interspecies breeding can work in this universe. Yeah, I think it just didn't feel as original or impactful for me, because you've already seen that dynamic between the two of them done so well in the first film. This movie also tries to tackle a really sort of big issue, at least my reading of the themes in the film, is that it's trying to put forward a message about racism, about colonialism and sort of taking over people's lands, ostracizing people, shepherding people outside of society. Those kind of ideas are presented here in a way that's, I think it's done pretty well, because this is a kids movie and it gets across some of those ideas in a bit of an ambiguous way where you can just view it as a kids movie, or you can look deeper into it and see and go, well, yeah, that is actually a bit of a solid commentary on racism, or how, American settlers came in and sort of took over everything and sort of ostracized a group of people. I think it did have some worthwhile commentary there. I thought that was done reasonably well, but sometimes it also feels like it gets a bit lost in some of the other messaging, because there's sort of a few key moments in the movie where the characters say, you should be prepared to die for what you believe in. And that's a bit of an intense message to put forward in a kids film and to tell kids. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I respect the ambition of the film. But that being said, I think the first movie did its thematic exploration in a much more effective and really brilliant way. I admire the first film for how I think it's much more about the dynamic between men and women and how we need to acknowledge and embrace people's differences so we can build a coherent society together. That's amazing concept for a children's film to cover. Most adult films can't get that message across in a good way. So I really respect the first film for that. And I think it was always going to be very difficult for a sequel to follow up on that. And thematically, it does have some richness, so you've got to give the movie credit for that. The world building was awesome. Once again, this whole Zootopia idea with all the animals living together, I love that, and we got to see a bit of expansion here with more of the water creatures, underwater scenes, sort of how they travel around this world. That was so fun to watch. We've also got to see, a bit of lore expansion and the whole reptile world as well, and the history with that. That was really cool. You get to see a prison too. I kind of feel like I would have liked to see a little bit more, and again, maybe it just didn't feel as fresh because once again, the first film, felt so original, whereas this movie's just not going to be as original because it is a sequel. But yeah, the animation though, absolutely beautiful, top tier, high quality animation, great character design, full marks for that. They also did have some movie references here, a few moments where they're watching Disney Plus in this animal world and you want to pause the screen, or there was a DVD seller in the movie. That was great for me as a physical media fan, so I did get a few chuckles out of that. I wouldn't say it was as funny as I remember the first film being, but it was still fairly funny overall, so I like that. The movie references, they were pretty good. And yeah, there's a few story elements that maybe just feel too convenient or don't 100% make sense. Maybe everything just wraps up a little bit too nicely at the end. But yeah, without spoiling it, overall, I don't know. I think if you're a kid, you're going to love this movie. Take your kids to see this film. They will love it. Yeah, for me as an adult who watched the first film, it just didn't quite hit me the way I wanted it to, but I think it was kind of doomed to fail from the start because of how good the first one was. And at least they didn't stuff it up. It doesn't betray the first film. Both of them work nicely together. Overall, it's a good movie. It's definitely not a bad film, but I don't know. I felt a little bit tired during the screening. Maybe I was just sleepy as well. So I'm going to give Zootopia 2 3 stars out of 5. And yeah, guys, if you enjoyed this review, make sure you go and check out these other ones right here. I do a bunch of movie review content on this channel. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please consider pressing that like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Let me know what you think down in the comments.